A king dies choking on his own wine. Not in battle, not surrounded by enemies, but at a banquet. The year was 120 BC. In the wealthy Black Sea city of Sinop, the ruler of Pontus, Mithridates V Eupator, collapsed mid-feast. His cup slipped from trembling fingers. Dark wine spilled across marble, pooling like blood. His body convulsed, veins burning, throat closing in fire. Poison. Ancient writers never named the assassin. Some whispered of courtiers bought by distant powers. Others pointed silent fingers at his own ambitious wife, Laodice. But watching from the shadowed hall, eyes wide with frozen horror, was his 14-year-old son. Mithridates VI Eupator. In a single night, he learned the lesson most rulers grasp only on their deathbeds. Power is fragile. Kings do not always die by the sword. Sometimes they die by the hand they trusted most. But the boy who watched would answer poison with something far more terrifying. Pontus was no minor kingdom. It hugged the southern shore of the Black Sea like a crescent of iron and emerald. Silver mines glittered in the Pontic Alps. Trade ships crowded Sinope's harbors, carrying grain from the steppe, timber from the forests, slaves from the Caucasus, amber from the Baltic. Greek cities dotted the coast, Amisus with its bustling agora, Sinope with its high walls, Trapezus gazing eastward. Each boasting theaters, gymnasia, temples to Apollo and Artemis where incense curled skyward. Yet the court breathed Persian air, silk robes whispering across stone, winged lions carved in relief, titles echoing the Achaemenids of old. Pontus stood between worlds, Hellenic sophistication, Oriental grandeur. To the west, a republic was rising, hungry, methodical. To the east, older empires faded like smoke on the wind, and now its throne belonged to a boy. A boy surrounded by enemies he could not yet see. Officially, he was king. In reality, power flowed to his mother, Laodice VI. Advisors shifted loyalties like sand in a storm. Alliances tilted toward his younger brother, Crestus. The palace grew quieter. Too quiet. Servants avoided eye contact. Whispers lingered in torchlit corridors. The same hush that had preceded his father's death. Mithridates understood. Poison does not strike without warning. It waits. It watches. It chooses its moment. So he made a decision few rulers ever dare. He disappeared. No royal escort, no banners, no ceremony. Just cold mountain air and the bite of survival. But exile would not break him. It would forge him. He fled into the wilderness of Pontus, rugged hills cloaked in pine, hidden valleys where wolves howled at dawn and eagles circled overhead. He hunted deer with bow and spear, skinning them with hands that learned precision under duress. He slept beneath open skies pierced by stars, wrapped in a single cloak against frost that bit bone deep. He learned to endure hunger until his stomach knotted into silence, exhaustion, until sleep came like a blow from an unseen fist. He faced storms that lashed the mountains, rivers swollen with meltwater, bandits who mistook a lone youth for easy prey. He killed when he had to. He vanished when he could. But survival was only the beginning. He was preparing for something far greater. Every day, carefully measured, he swallowed small doses of poison. Hemlock gathered from shaded glades, aconite root bitter on the tongue, plant toxins collected by herbalists who feared his relentless questions, measured compounds of arsenic and mercury, weighed on bronze scales, even drops of viper venom, diluted to the razor's edge of death. Slowly, carefully, He was teaching his body to survive assassination. The practice would later bear his name, Mithridatism, but this was not superstition or madness. It was strategy, cold, patient, scientific. If poison could not kill him, what could? Years passed in shadow. The boy hardened into something else, lean, watchful, unbreakable. Scars mapped his arms from thorn and blade. His eyes carried the weight of nights alone. When he returned to Pontus around 113 BC, he was no longer prey. He moved like a storm gathering force. His mother was arrested in the night. Soon after, she was dead, strangled or starved in a distant tower. Sources disagree, but the result was absolute. His brother followed. There would be no divided rule, no regency, no rival claimants whispering in the dark. Only one king. And now, with the throne secured, he turned toward an empire. The palace that once threatened him now bent in obedience. Fear had shaped him. Now ambition would define him. And his gaze turned west. There, a republic was expanding, the Roman Republic. Rome did not conquer loudly at first. It installed friendly rulers on thrones, demanded tribute in silver and grain, placed advisors whose real role was oversight and extraction. To Rome, it was efficient administration. To those paying the taxes, it was exploitation dressed in togas and sealed with senatorial decrees. Resentment simmered across Asia Minor, Greek cities groaning under the greed of publicani tax farmers, local kings humiliated by arrogant legates. Mithridates saw opportunity, and he would strike Rome where it felt safest. He presented himself as liberator, defender of the East against Western greed. He spoke Greek fluently, quoted Homer in public assemblies, styled himself successor to Alexander the Great and the Persian kings of legend. Coins bore his image crowned with ivy, or wearing the radiant crown of the sun god. He claimed descent from both Achilles and Darius. Cities listened. Support grew. Quiet at first, then a rising tide. And then, in 88 BC, he made the decision that would echo across history. Across Roman Asia, coordinated orders raced along hidden roads in swift couriers. Romans were hunted. Officials dragged from homes and temples, families slaughtered in streets, villas, and marketplaces. Ancient sources claim nearly 80,000 Romans and Italians died in a single, synchronized purge. It was the point of no return. Rome would answer. The event became known as the Asiatic Vespers. It was not random violence. It was calculated, deliberate. A message written in blood. Rome's authority in the East collapsed overnight. But Rome was not a kingdom that could be frightened into retreat. It was a machine, and machines respond. The Senate sent one of its most feared commanders, Lucius Cornelius Sulla. The First Mithridatic War began. At first, Mithridates advanced boldly. His fleets swept the Aegean, his armies poured into Greece. Athens opened its gates, hailing him as savior from Roman oppression. But Rome was about to remind the world why it endured. For a moment, it seemed Rome could be pushed back across the sea, but Rome did what it had always done. It endured. Sulla landed with hardened legions. He besieged Athens, starving the city until men ate leather. Desperation. And finally, each other, in rumor. Then, at Chaeronea in 86 BC, Roman legions met Pontic forces in open battle, shields locked in iron wall, pilums launched in dark clouds, formations held against charging scythed chariots and massed infantry. Roman discipline cut through numbers and enthusiasm alike. Archelaus's army shattered on the plain. Athens fell soon after, sacked with cold precision. Mithridates had survived once, but could he survive Rome again? By 85 BC, Mithridates negotiated peace. He surrendered territory, paid enormous indemnities that emptied treasuries, but he remained king. He had faced Rome and survived. That survival fed his confidence. War returned again and again. The Second War flared when a Roman proconsul, Murena, raided Pontic borders on flimsy pretexts. Mithridates struck back with swift reprisals, but Sulla, now dictator, forced a standstill. No great battles, just mutual exhaustion, and a grudging return to uneasy peace. The peace would not last. A final reckoning was coming. The Third War would be the longest and the most brutal. It began with the death of Nicomedes of Bithynia, who willed his kingdom to Rome. Mithridates invaded to prevent encirclement. Early victories followed. Roman fleets burned at anchor, legions ambushed in narrow passes. But then came Lucius, methodical, brilliant, relentless. He relieved the siege of Cyzicus, trapping Mithridates' army against the sea until famine and disease claimed tens of thousands in rotting heaps. This time, Rome would not be pushed back. He invaded Pontus itself. At Cabira, he smashed the royal forces in a day of slaughter. Mithridates fled east to his son-in-law, Tigranes of Armenia. Lucullus pursued, crossing the Euphrates, storming Tigranocerta, routing Tigranes' vaunted host with a fraction of the numbers, through superior tactics and iron resolve. But Lucullus's own men mutinied, tired of endless marches, thin spoils, harsh winters in foreign lands. Rome replaced him with Pompey, and Pompey would finish what others began. Pompey was methodical in a different way. He dismantled alliances one by one, cut supply lines with naval precision, seized key territories. He did not rush. He isolated. By 66 BC, Mithridates was retreating north again. The king who once threatened Roman dominance was running, but retreat was not surrender. He reached Crimea, gathered what remained of his fleet and treasury. Even there, he plotted one final gamble, a march west through the Balkans, straight toward Italy itself. An invasion of Rome. It was madness. Or it was genius. But fate had other plans. It was bold. It was desperate. Exhaustion had taken root. His treasury was drained to copper. His soldiers were weary, mutinous, deserting in the night. And then came betrayal. His own son, Pharnaces, revolted, seizing the throne in Panticapaeum. After decades of defiance, Mithridates stood nearly alone. In 63 BC, surrounded by rebellion, he chose death. He drank poison. The same dark mixture he had carried for 40 years, the weapon that had shaped his life. It did not work. Years of calculated exposure had made him resistant. The king who could not be poisoned had reached his final irony. The king who feared poison most could not die from it. So he turned to a loyal Gallic guard, Bictuitus. He ordered him to finish what toxins could not. A sword ended the life poison could not claim. Mithridates VI Eupator fell. Pontus was absorbed into Roman control. The Republic expanded further east, new provinces, new tribute, new triumphs for generals hungry for glory. But even Rome acknowledged the scale of the struggle. 3 wars, 3 decades, countless resources poured into the east. Few enemies had forced Rome into such prolonged, expensive conflict. Empires are expected to win, that is their nature. But resistance defines memory. Rome continued to rise. Its generals would reshape the Mediterranean world, yet the name Mithridates endured, not because he won, but because he refused to yield easily. A boy watched his father die from poison. He built immunity in the wilderness. He challenged the greatest power of his age, and in the end, the very defense he perfected denied him the death he chose. Rome conquered lands, but Mithridates conquered something else: time. And that is why, more than 2,000 years later, we still speak his name.